There are huge things happening in the Pulse Chain ecosystem right now. We need to talk about them. This has all been happening in the last week. Okay, crazy stuff is happening. Fees are getting burnt. All these coins are about to get way more scarce, and it goes deeper than you think. The latest Richard Heart announcement is that INC's inflation just got cut by 10x. Here's the post about it, okay? This just happened about 2 minutes ago. Basically, INC is the yield farming token, and it was getting emitted to anybody that's yield farming on app.pulsex.com. So if you're yield farming in any one of these yield farms, you're getting up to, 30, 40% inflation, 50% APY in the form of INC token. And that just got 10 times more scarce, which means, as we can see, the price of INC is obviously pumping super hard. It's probably going to keep pumping for a little bit. So congrats to all holders. Guys, there's stuff going on with PulseX and PLS with the buy and burn ramping up with Pump.tires. The Hex origin address just 2 days ago staked billions of Hex, eHex and PHEX by the way. Not only maybe as a flex, but potentially to lower the inflation rate of Hex as well to stop these rolling stakers from permadumping on our heads, these whales and sharks that just keep suppressing the price because they're getting too much inflation, it seems. It's all happening so fast. And on top of all this, guys, the liquidity. Has anybody noticed this? The liquidity on US dollar paired with Pulse. Okay, this is the liquidity that basically is backing the whole ecosystem. So you take these liquidity pools. These are the primary liquidity pools backing PLS. The US dollar price. Okay, this is what you care about. You don't really care about a coin tied to a meme coin. That doesn't affect the US dollar price. And the total liquidity symmetrically is 34 million, for example, on DAI Ethereum. And we divide that by 2. So that's 17 million DAI is in the bid side, okay? 17 million DAI stablecoins and $17 million worth of Pulse. So 17 million plus, let's call it 6 million. So that's 23 million plus about 5 million. That's about $29 million of stablecoins backing the entire ecosystem. I remember this being about 70 million a couple months ago. So I don't know if people are removing liquidity on purpose. I don't know if the origin address is removing liquidity on purpose. Think about why this is happening, guys. See the big picture here. If you're seeing what I'm seeing, you're going to get extremely excited about this. The lower liquidity means, yes, coins dump harder, but let's say somebody was going to gear up for a big pump, maybe a big news announcement, maybe some positive, legal landscape in the USA, perhaps. I don't know, maybe the SEC goes away. You want lower liquidity so that it can pump harder. Also on the way down, if you want to shake people out, you'd also want lower liquidity. So again, this was about $60 million of stablecoins backing essentially the whole ecosystem just a couple months ago, from what I remember. Okay, but now it's half that. It's less than $30 million. So if people are going to start aping in, does somebody know something we don't know? That's what I am wondering now. And like with Pump.tires, okay, Pump.tires, this is the meme coin factory that Richard just launched, okay, Pump.fun clone. Pump Fun clone is already, suck my balls, that's funny. The Pump.fun clone has already burned 8 billion PLS. 8 billion PLS is about $400,000. And this is just from the 1% of PLS getting burnt on trading fees every time people buy these coins, okay? And when these coins graduate to PulseX, there's a 200 million PLS liquidity pool that's also burned. So for like every 5 coins that graduates to PulseX, another billion Pulse is just burned in those liquidity pools for the meme coins, and they're locked. Locked liquidity basically can't be touched. So there's burning going on everywhere. And guys, it's just like, even on the PulseX side, okay? Look at the amount of total circulating supply burnt, 6.23%. 5 days ago, this was 6.1%. So 0.1% of the total circulating supply of PulseX has been bought and burned automatically because that's what PulseX does. If you don't know about PulseX already, all the volume on app.pulsex.com, some tiny fraction of that volume is automatically going to buy and burn PulseX. Guys, 0.1% in 5 days means 1% in 50 days, which means in 500 days, that'd be 10% of the supply gone. So is there an epic supply shock coming? I don't know. And let's talk about Hex for a minute too. Why would the origin address stake Hex? Well, number one, I believe it's also partly just a flex, and also partly a signal of, Richard Heart, or the origin address owner, saying, yo guys, I'm totally fine. I still have control of these keys. You don't know who it is, but I still control it. So, whatever FUD you have that I'm on the run, or that I'm about to lose, or I'm scared, or I'm dead, or whatever the FUD of the day is, pretty obviously not true. Okay, pretty provably wrong in that point. Okay, because the origin address coins haven't moved in years. So I guess like some people might be a little skeptical, but the coins are lying dormant and the coins have never been sold. So that's why everybody trusts Hex. It's been out for 5 years. Yes, there's like 85, 90% of the supply owned by an origin address. But in this case, what people get wrong is that centralized supply is a good thing when it's in diamond-handed people. Everybody wants a fair launch or fair distribution, but that's all just a made-up myth, okay? When VC companies show you a little pie chart of, 20% for marketing, 20% for seed round, 20% for Series A and B, that should make you terrified because all those guys are going to dump. The marketing fund is going to dump the coin to pay for marketing, to dump on retail. The Series A and B guys, I know some of these investors in real life. They can't wait to dump on retail. Seed round, can't wait. As soon as their cliff is done, they're going to dump on retail. So in most cases, you are right to not want centralized ownership. But in the case of Hex, you are very wrong. Because there is a low float, highly FDV, high fully diluted value. But in the case of Hex is a diamond in the rough, okay? It's an anomaly. It's all owned by one entity that never ever dumps, and they just staked. So one thing that the origin address can do with the coins, besides dump, is obviously stake. And the more Hex is staked in the ecosystem, the lower the APY is. So big whales are now getting less yield. And we gotta wait 5 more days to see what happens. We don't know what's gonna happen. Will the origin address infinitely restake Hex for little 1-week terms forever? That sounds like it might be a lot of work. I heard a pretty good idea from somebody on Twitter who said, what if the origin address just good accounting functions the Hex? So when you run the good accounting function, you stop the bleeding, but you don't actually mint the Hex back. So that might keep the artificially low yield on hold up until whenever they decide to end the stakes. So, I mean, I could see there being a good accounting function run in 5 days, and then you just have basically a dormant mega stake that lowers the Hex APY for all the permadumpers. And there's permadumpers and everything. There's people scraping the yield every month on INC token, which causes negative sell pressure, right? So basically you have sell pressure on all these coins from people that got in the sacrifice phase in Pulse and PulseX. A lot of weak hands had to get shaken out there. INC farmers, sell the yield. Hex perpetual stakers are selling the yield. Now I have a ladder. Okay, I don't do monthly stakes. I have a ladder though, and it is long term, but it is like every couple of months I've got a stake coming out. And look, like that's the strategy, right? That's the yield staking ladder strategy. If you want to, you can sell the yield and you can restake the principal, or you could sell the whole thing. It depends on, the price. Now, I've just been rolling it all back. I've been restaking everything for, or maybe 2+ years now, because it's just not worth it to me to sell at a penny when I easily think Hex can go to $1. But there are some entities, like I think your friend Sami pointed out an entity in Hex that somehow they had control of like 1 billion coins. I mean, can you imagine having 1 billion Hex and not being the origin address? That is a legitimate danger to all the, good people that are buying Hex and just trying to DCA in. Because if they can dump, for a 1-month rolling stake at 1 billion Hex, I mean, you're dumping, a couple $100,000 worth of Hex every month at that rate. Now, there's not a lot of these sharks and whales. I mean, there are sharks and whales, but then there's like negative sharks and whales that they don't do anything for the community. You don't hear from them. They just sit on the sidelines and just perma-dump forever. They don't try to add more demand. And that's a much smaller fraction. Like the sharks and the whales and the dolphins, like most of them, like not all of them are doing this like permanent restaking strategy, but it is good to see Richard potentially recognizing this. And just look, guys, supply shock across every single coin in the last 4 days. PLS is being burned on Pump.tires, 1% of every transaction. And $10,000 worth of Pulse, about 200 million Pulse, gets burned every time a coin graduates. So guys, keep pumping those tires. Okay, keep making these meme coins. I'm not going to play these games most of the time, but you got to realize that even if you don't want to just chase meme coins all day, it does pump your core bags eventually. Now we're going to see this ramp up. We're going to see the effects of the supply and demand in real life. So it's going to get really exciting. And again, guys, more volume going through PulseX. Let's take a look at the volume stats on PulseX. $56 million of volume. Basically, the volume has just doubled. We've been averaging about 30 million, $25 million. Look at all this low volume death zone over here, right? $10 million of volume a day on PulseX. Well, what's this little spike recently, guys? This was the launch of Pump.tires. Okay, 64 million, 90 million, almost $100 million yesterday. Today we've already got 56 million, and the day's not even over yet. So we basically just like 5x'd our average daily volume. As long as people keep using Pump.tires, guys, do go use it. Have fun. 1% lottery, 10% lottery, 5% lottery, 95% core, whatever you want to do. But I mean, this hasn't really changed. Like, I did buy some meme coins. I bought Best and I bought Most. And if I make profits on those, I already have made some profits on those, actually. Also, by the way, Best and Most, as far as meme coins go, Richard Hart's meme coin, Richard Hart's developer's meme coin, 80% of the supply of both of those tokens is locked and burned just like the OA. Well, at least we assume it is. We hope. It's not a guarantee. You know, the 80% owner of most and best could dump, but probably not. And so when Richard Hart makes a meme coin, you know, appeal to authority, of course I'm going to buy a little bag. And I've made a lot of profit, and I hope it keeps going up. But when I do make profits on these coins, guys, I roll them back into PLS. All right, that's my strategy personally, right? I just like to collect more of the core tokens. Because yes, they're not pumping very hard. Yes, they're kind of flatlining. But when they do pump, I want to have accumulated a whole bunch of them. So you can see how Pump.tires keeps people in the ecosystem. They don't sell for dollars when they dump these coins for profit. What are they taking profit in, guys? They're taking profit in the layer 1 coin. Just like on Solana, people take profit in Sol. On Ethereum, people take profit in ETH. And then they don't leave the game. They go try their hand. They go play at the casino again. So you never have to leave, you know, the golden city of PulseChain now. Why might this all be happening, guys? Well, who knows? The old SEC case could finally be coming to an end. The corruption might finally be revealed. And there's some good news in the fundamental level of the SEC case as well. 50 SEC lawyers got reassigned to different roles. The SEC only hires like 1,000 lawyers. That's about 5% of their workforce gets reassigned to different roles. Were these crypto lawyers? We don't know. Seems likely that they would be, though. On top of that, what part of the executive order that Trump gave to the SEC to come up with clear regulations, the SEC responded with almost like a begging type of tweet. Let's go over that really quick, too. This is very interesting. Their response to, the SEC's response to coins and token offerings is that we're thinking about the possibility of maybe recommending the commission to provide some temporary and retroactive relief for coin or token offerings for which the issuing entity, PulseChain, Richard Hart, theoretically, willing to take some responsibility, provide certain information. Now, what information does Richard have? No, he didn't collect any information. So this doesn't even make any sense, right? Well, if you provide us with information, oh, you mean the information that's all publicly available on the blockchain? The sacrifice address that you can literally go look at? That's all the information that's out there. Richard didn't collect IP addresses. He probably doesn't care about anybody individually. Or their identity. You know, there was no KYC here. This is just a sacrifice, right? And if they keep that information updated, basically, if you just become our slave and agree not to contest the commission's jurisdiction, agree not to contest, please don't. This sounds like they're begging, right? Please don't contest our jurisdiction. Please don't point out the fact that we are acting outside of our jurisdiction by trying to go after a guy in Finland when we only have jurisdiction in the USA and unfairly harassing and subpoenaing and persecuting innocent people that were never paid to promote this thing in the first place. If you agree not to go after us and give us some info, you know, we can make this all go away. To me, guys, I smell fear. Clearly, I'm not a lawyer, but it kind of sounds like they know they fucked up and they're scared that Richard is going to sue them back, perhaps for an ADA violation. I'm sorry, guys, I meant to say an APA violation. ADA is Disabilities Act. APA requires that agencies follow certain procedures when setting rules. Basically, this is what's governing the 3-letter agencies, right? This keeps the 3-letter agencies in check. And you can go to court. You can sue somebody. Does anybody remember Richard Hart in a video from 2 years ago on Christmas talking about perhaps hoping that Gary Gensler catches a case for all the harm he's caused, not only to the price, but to innocent civilians? I remember that very well. So, who knows? On the fundamental level, I don't think Richard Hart would be one to, you know, take this deal, if this even is a deal, of maybe possibly considering, if you provide us some information, we'll make this all go away. I think they know they're going to lose, and I think they're scared that Richard Hart's not only going to win the case and beat the SEC, but then sue them back. So what if Richard Hart gets a dismissal with prejudice, meaning they can't ever sue him back for the same things again, and then countersues for them breaking the APA? Might be wishful thinking, guys. I know I'm a hopium dealer right now. I know I'm dealing you straight up dopamine. I don't want to say that's a guarantee. Maybe he settles. Maybe this thing goes on for another year. But really the tides are turning, okay? Legally, the SEC seems to be retracting, right? You know, their over abuse of power is being restricted. Also, part of the executive order, now they have to actually ask the commissioner's permission to start going after innocent people. We saw one of the SEC employees basically complaining that now he has to ask his boss for permission. He can't just sue people recklessly. I thought that was pretty funny as well. And, you know, Hester Pierce. Honestly, Hester Pierce and Carol Amon, these two women might have saved crypto. They might have saved PulseChain. But we don't know yet. Nothing has happened for sure on the legal aspect. It's just very eerie that a 7-day stake was made to somebody knows something, right? A 7-day hex stake, billions of EHEX and PHEX. Oh, and by the way, maybe that shows that EHEX isn't dead yet either. Maybe that shows a little life in EHEX. And I know EHEX just spiked up in the price chart. EHEX had like a 60% candle in one day back when that happened, okay? So, do with this information what you will. INC, supply shock, 10 times lower inflation. Permadumpers are 10 times less powerful. Hex. Basically, I think it's like a 4x yield reduction. No, maybe a 2 or 3x yield reduction. Because we were getting about 7 or 8 hex per t-shirt per day. Let's go check it out, actually. This is go.hex.com, by the way. This is where you stake your hex. This is where all the long-term believers are staking their hex. Now let's take a look. Okay, well, it's about a 50% reduction. Look, everybody was earning about 7 hex per t-shirt per day. Now they're earning 3.7. So from 7.6 to 3.7, that's almost half, okay? That's actually less than half. This is about a 60% reduction. A 60% reduction in yield if this, continues to roll. Or maybe it gets good accounting function. We don't know. But it's a very interesting time to be alive right now. Very interesting time to be in Pulse Chain. So, if you're chasing meme coins, I like most token, I like best token. But look, if you don't have a bag of the cores yet, consider doing that. Consider, making a bag of these long-term core positions. These are like the blue chips, okay, in Pulse Chain. PLS gets burned all the time. $400,000 burned in the last 5 days. Liquidity pools get burned off Pump.tires. PulseX buy and burn. All the volume that's now doubled or tripled daily volume because of Pump.tires is now getting burnt and bought, triply as fast, 3x as fast. 0.1% of the supply burned in 5 days. INC, 10 times more rare. Up 35% today. So far, by the time I'm done posting this, it might be higher. And then Hex. Don't forget about Hex, guys. It might be down today, but we just had a 30% update on Hex a couple days ago when the market noticed that EHEX and PHEX had the 1-week rolling stake, which, like we just showed you, reduces yield for permadumpers by over 50%, giving new guys some meat on the bone to come participate, come make a staking ladder. I've got a position of all 4. I don't give financial advice, but for people that I like, my friends and family, I like telling them about these coins because I think they have so much price potential, and I think they really do have the opportunity to make people a lot of money if they believe. But those are just my thoughts and opinions. You click the button at the end of the day. You take responsibility. Guys, get your popcorn, sit back, enjoy the ride. Like, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment. What do you think about all this? What do you think about the gearing up? Oh, and finally, let's recap the last point. What do you think about the fact that $30 million is now backing the Pulse Chain ecosystem when this used to be 60 million, 70 million? Is somebody rugging the liquidity on purpose? No, I don't know. This is a very diverse liquidity pool. People could just be taking out liquidity. This could just be a bunch of people. It doesn't have to be coordinated. But the timing of everything, guys, the timing of the SEC case, the timing of Pump.tires, the timing of the stake, the timing of... It's all just... It makes sense to me in my head. Hope it makes sense to you. I'll see you on the next one.